Back in the Limitless Leadership Lounge for another week. I'm John Gehring, joined as always by Coach Jim Johnson, and we're talking today about health, about age, about a really inspiring story that's going to shock you. You're not going to want to miss our conversation today with Tom Wright. Coach Jim Johnson has connected us with Tom, so Coach, go right ahead and introduce our guest today.
Yeah, we're really excited. Tom was introduced by one of our other guests, Mark Victor Hansen, and Mark helped publish or did publish his book. So I want to share. Tom's got some amazing things going on in his life at 65 years old, and I appreciate that because I'm 65 as well. So Tom was a professional baseball player, a former outfielder for the Yankees, who's capturing national news for his knuckleball and the possibility of pitching in the major leagues in his now 60s or working on getting in the Champions Tour for the PGA Golf Tour. Tom is the host and producer of the national Healthy Living TV show called Wave for Healthy Living. He has also authored a book under the same title, which he discusses the most important principles of healthy living in four main areas: fitness, nutrition, mind, and spirit. Tom has a bachelor's degree in phys ed from Brigham Young. He swam in college and was a national competitive power lifter. And at 55 years young, he deadlifted over 500 pounds. That's amazing. Tom has been a fitness consultant, personal trainer, and coach for over 30 years. And Tom has also created a healthy living comic and a set of children's books entitled Question Everything, which is about a 10-year-old boy named Tommy who asks his parents, sisters, and teacher profound, thought provoking, and sometimes very funny questions about the world we live in. His first children's book, entitled Tommy Goes to the Beach, is being published or has been published. Tom, without further ado, you got a lot of stuff, and we're looking forward to digging in. Welcome to the Limitless Leadership Lounge.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm grateful to be here. I appreciate you inviting me in.
So, Tom, I'm going to delve in right away because our goal is to help young and emerging leaders. And when you get into leadership, often people forget about the importance of taking care of yourself first. And health is so essential. And I know you spent a lot of time, and you're still doing so many amazing things that people 25 years old can't do. So, tell us a little bit about your journey in the health and and what you're doing today.
I started off in high school, and I played baseball, I ran track, I played basketball, um, I swam, and my best sport was always baseball. That was my love, and I think that's why I still have this dream. And when I was playing baseball, it's like I went on a mission for my church, from age 25 to 27. And then I came back, and my goal was to, play in the major leagues. And I'd go to the tryout camps, and I'd run these amazing times. And the first question out of all the scouts' mouth was, "How old are you? How old are you? How old are you?" And, I just battled that, for my whole career. So, I trained in the weight room an hour because I was playing baseball during the steroid era, and I felt like the only way that I could compete with these guys that were on performance enhancing drugs is to be stronger than them. So I became one of the strongest. And this is, I give the credit to Heavenly Father and our Savior, because it's like, you can't do a lot of things that I've been able to do without, the blessings of the Lord. So I spend an hour or two a day in the weight room and became one of the strongest men in America. I actually deadlifted over 600 pounds, and I squatted 500 pounds, and I
Wow.
bench close to four, and I did it all drug free, at about 200 pounds of weight.
Hmm.
And so, the good Lord's blessed me. And when I was in college, the reason why I started off as a zoology major, I was going to be a dentist, but then I realized I didn't want to be a dentist. So I went back and I finished in physical education, which was my love. And I started a master's program, and then I got invited to Major League Spring Training with the New York Yankees. So I kind of halfway through my master's program, I dropped out to play with the Yankees. And it was a short stint, but when I was there with the Yankees, the strength coach said, and George Steinbrenner, I guess, is the one that had me released. He said, "Get rid of get rid of the older guys and move the younger guys in. So, I was there about a month in spring training, and then I went off to play in the Mexican major leagues. But, it was a great experience to be, around the Yankees, and you had 100 cameras on you, every move you made. And it was just, I mean, I got to meet Joe DiMaggio. We grew up in towns right next to each other.
Wow.
So I got to talk to him for like 20 minutes, and people said he didn't like the public eye, but he was like the nicest guy in the world to me, I guess, maybe because he felt the kinship being, growing up in the same area. But, it was just a great experience to be with the Yankees. Mickey Mantle was around, a lot of the greats were there when I was there. So it was just a wonderful experience. And then I played in the Mexican major leagues, and I felt like I had the ability, just because of my strength and what the Lord's given me. It's like I could hit a baseball over 500 feet, and there's not many people that have ever played the game that can hit the ball that far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I felt like I had the ability to play in not only play, but to set some records. And but it's like baseball, it's like age is their way of kind of filtering people out of the game, because they have so many people. And it's like, if you're this old and you haven't achieved this level, then, they basically, it's really hard to get an opportunity. So, when I started to get around my 40s, I thought, I'm too old to play in the outfield. And that's kind of when I switched them to the knuckleball, which is something that I've been working on since I was a kid. And so, my focus has been the knuckleball. My fastball is still in the 80s. The last time I was timed was 2017. It was 84. The average major league fastball used to be 84 in the 80s, and now I think it's about 92 is the average major league fastball. Guys just keep getting bigger and stronger.
Yeah.
But my fastball, but a lot of the great knuckleballers, they couldn't break 80 with their fastball, and they just relied on their knuckleball. So I've really focused on that, and I've thrown hundreds of thousands of them. I've thrown close to 30,000 just this last year. I throw 500 to 600 knuckleballs per week. But my goal is and people say, well, you can't do that at your age, but it's just like, why not? I'm still fast, I'm strong, I'm still deadlifting around 400 pounds. I'm probably squatting, in the threes somewhere. And, in my 40, if I'm really focused, I can still get down into the fours and the 40. I mean, I've run a 4.4 40-yard dash, and
Wow.
in baseball, they measure it, in the 60s. So I ran a 6.4 60, but, now it's like, I'm not as fast, but I'm still faster than, most. So it's like, there's no reason why I can't play. The ball doesn't care whether you're 25 or 65 when it's coming in. If you can take the spin off it, it's going to float like crazy. And so, that's my goal, to be the oldest player that's ever played in the major league. And I don't want to be a sideshow or a freak show. I don't want to play for a day or a week. I want to establish myself as a legitimate player.
Mm.
And so I don't know if that'll be, if I can play a year or 2 years or 3 years, but I'd love to just get in there, and maybe, I'll get a couple at bats and hit a home run, and they can see, what the talent that the good Lord's blessed me with.
Well, if you can do that, if you can also pitch too, then we got a Shohei Ohtani on the very ends here. That's phenomenal. Tom, how about when it comes to leadership for any young and emerging leader, no matter what it is, whether it's athletics or even in business or anything else, it must take consistent work that you're putting in and day out to get as strong. You didn't just pop a pill and get strong overnight. And then you also haven't developed such a strong knuckleball because of not throwing it hundreds of times a week, like you said. How important in your journey has the consistency of showing up every day been, and what lessons can we take from that as young leaders?
Well, one of the things that I've written this book called Wave for Healthy Living. And I think, a lot of people wonder, how can you do what you can do at your age? But I think a lot of it is, if I was playing in the major leagues the whole time, I don't think I'd still be able to throw, an 84 mile an hour fastball. It's like, our bodies need rest as much as they need, like, the effort and the training and the mental energy and all that. We also need times to back off and just relax and rest. So it's like, and that's kind of, where we came up with the wave pattern. And, they used to say that steady state exercise was the best, but actually now the most of the research is saying that if you get your heart rate up and then you get it back down and then you get it back up and then you get it back down, that's actually a better way to exercise and lower your heart rate. And so, when you talk about leaders, I really believe that, you need to have a goal in mind. I mean, like I said, I've had this goal of playing in Major League Baseball since I was a little kid. And so I really think that, a lot of the people that achieve greatness in their life, I think that they have that mindset, like Michael Jordan. They said, he said, I never wrote down my goals, but he said it was so ingrained in my thinking that I thought about it all day long. And it's like, I really believe that you've got to set goals. And I think each of us are different, and it's like we all have something that we've been given from Heavenly Father, as far as our physical gifts or mental gifts or spiritual gifts. And it's like we need to evaluate our gifts and really pray and ask God, what am I capable of achieving? And what can I do? And then once you have that goal in your mind, I think you just don't give up no matter what. And it's like people think I'm crazy at age 65 to still have this goal, but I'm just like, hey, there's no reason why I can't do this. And so, I just think that you can't give up. You've got to have that goal in your mind and heart, and just, you work at it every day. The Lord blesses effort. When we put in the effort, something's going to improve. Every single day when I'm out there throwing my knuckleball, I make little adjustments, to the ball on where I put my fingers and how I'm pushing off. And it's like every day I feel like something is getting better, and it's like that gives me confidence to know that that I'm improving. And I think improvement is the key to success.
Hey, Tom, let's dive in a little bit because, as we talked about, you've been really great in the health and wellness, written a book about it. But for leaders that always, the famous excuse, I don't have time. Take us through, give us a example workout that, some ideas on how a leader can block out 45 to 60 minutes and get a pretty gosh darn effective workout.
Well, I think most important when you're working out are your largest muscle groups. And I teach this in my book. Focus on your largest muscle groups. And what are your largest muscles in your body? They're in your legs, your glutes,
Right.
your hamstrings, your quads. And so the best exercises that we can do in the gym or in real life are something that's whole body, something that exercises our whole body. So in the weight room, and it doesn't, a lot of people think, this is a weightlifting. It's not a weightlifting program. That's, part of it. But it's like a lot of people don't like lifting weights. They don't like going to the gym. So there's exercises they can do at home, or if they just like sports. So let's say that they like basketball and they have a group that they play with, once or twice or three times a week or more. It's like that's whole body exercises. You're jumping, you're running, you're moving side to side, your heart's getting, you're exercising your heart. So I suggest anything, any movement is good, and so some movement is obviously better than others. If you're walking, it's like I tell people, don't just walk on flat surfaces, but walk up hills or walk upstairs, because that kicks in. If you're just walking flat surfaces, you're really not working the back part of your legs at all. You're working your quads maybe a little bit, but your glutes and hamstrings aren't being worked until you start to move up a hill or you move upstairs. So, I think the best lifts in the gym are squats, deadlifts, cleans, snatch, those Olympic lifts, and then deadlifts and squats. And kind of, interestingly enough, the deadlifts and squats are the best lifts for athletes, but they're also the best lifts for older people because you want to keep your independence. And what keeps your independence? It's like you need to be able to sit up from a chair, which is a squat, right?
Right.
And you need to be able to bend over and pull your pants up, or put your shoes on. So that's a deadlift movement. So
Mhm.
it's like the best lifts for athletes are also the best lifts for people in their 80s and 90s.
Mhm.
Wow. So a lot of exercise, a lot of times we work out with this goal of looking a certain way or being more proud of our body. What has your motivation been all along? Because I think a lot of times we can have that motivation and fall short because that's so subjective. What is looking good? What is having a nice body? But having a very pointed, specific, actionable goal to reach I think keeps us more on the path in our goal setting. So how would you suggest someone who is going through that physical routine make their goals more specific?
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with looking good. We all want to look good. We all want to, lose some body fat. We all want to, feel strong and healthy and, be appealing to our spouse. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but I think, a lot of times people get it out of balance and it's like their main focus. And that's kind of what I'm doing in my book. It's like, we function as a whole. We function body, mind, and spirit. So I've broken my book down into 4 sections where I talk about first fitness, nutrition, a healthy mind, and a healthy spirit. So it's like, I think people need to evaluate, why am I going to the gym? Why do I want to look good? Is it so I can, get, big arms for the girls and cheat on my wife, or do I want to be healthy and strong and my wife to look at me and say you look good, you look great. So I really feel like we need to take a body mind spirit approach to our health and not just focus on the body or not just focus on the mind. There's a lot of companies that have done a great job with the mind and spirit, but they've basically ignored the body. And there's a lot of companies that have done a great job with the body, but they've ignored the mind and the spirit. And so that's what I'm trying to do with our company is bring, the body, mind, and spirit together.
Mhm.
Well, Tom, you've given us some nice ideas on the body piece. Let's delve into the mind piece. Can you give one or two exercises that you would recommend people to help them with the mind? Because as a leader, the mind is such an important thing, and I think it's often neglected. I know with my teams, we spend a lot of time with mental imagery and working with our players, and I think it helped us immensely. So can you give one or two exercises you would recommend, maybe from the book or just what you work with clients to help them with the mental piece?
Well, I think, goal setting is key. When I was in college, I was able to meet Stephen Covey,
Hmm.
and he wrote, the 7 habits of highly effective people, and it's like, I really feel like, people need to, and again, I really believe that prayer has to be a part of this,
Okay.
because it's like we can all think that we can become president of the United States, but the reality is there's only one president of the United States at a time.
Right.
And so we can't all become president of the United States, but the good Lord has blessed us with things. And I think, if we are prayerful about it, we can, the first thing I tell people is just write down everything you want to do in life. What are your life goals? And when I was on my church mission, I wrote down 200 different things that I would like to accomplish in my life. And then, they say that it's hard to really plan more than about 5 years out.
Mhm.
And so, take those goals, those lifelong goals, and make them into 5-year goals. And then take those 5-year goals and make them into 1-year goals. And then take those 1-year goals and break them down into monthly and weekly goals. So I really feel like, if you don't write down a goal, it's only a wish, that there's that saying. like I said, some people don't need to write down their goals like Michael Jordan, but it's like I really feel like, we need to plan our life not just in the one area, but in all areas. So, like in my book, I suggest that, people don't just make goals about, what they want to accomplish in their career, but also in their family life and in their nutrition and their fitness and in their spirituality, their church attendance, their church service, their family relations. What do you want? Like Covey says, begin with the end in mind. When you go to your grave, it's like, what do you want to be said about you at your funeral?
Mhm.
And I really feel like, you work from there and then you work backwards. So I really feel like goal setting is so important, and it's so important to have that communication with our Heavenly Father as you set your goals, because He knows us best. He knows what talents and gifts we have. He knows the beginning from the end. So it's like, if you try to do everything on your own, I think, your chance of success is a lot less.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, and it's a strong faith that you have, and I know you went to a faith-based school as well, in at BYU. So tell us a little bit about how that journey started for you, where your faith came from, and why it is so strong.
I went to BYU. I didn't grow up a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. In high school, I dated a few girls that were a member of the church, and I respected their values and I respected their families. And I said to myself, I want a family like that one day. I want to marry a woman like this one day. And I still haven't found it. I'm still searching, but and I've never been married, but I want that blessing in my life. And people again say, "Oh, you're too old to have children," but it's like I just don't listen to what most people tell me, because I feel like if I live my life the way I see it going, I think I can live to 90, 100 years old. So it's I'm in my second half of my life, obviously, but I'm not dead. There's things that I can do. I feel good. I feel strong. I don't feel much different than I did when I was 25. So I went to BYU. I ended up searching out, the Book of Mormon. I read the Book of Mormon. I prayed about it, and I really felt like, after my 3 years, I didn't want to just jump into something that I didn't really understand or know about. So it took me, 3 years of a lot of study and a lot of prayer to really feel like, I was on the right path. So I ended up joining the church, and then I served a mission a couple of years later at age 20 through 25 through 27. And then I came home at 27 and I started my baseball journey.
Hmm. Wow, very powerful story. And that faith to this day is still something that's a very important part of your life. How have you continued in that and continue to grow yourself spiritually?
Well, when I was on my mission, the president of the church, who's was Ezra Taft Benson at the time, he said, the scriptures are all important. The Bible, we believe that the Bible and the Book of Mormon are another testament of Christ, and that they are companion volumes. The one is the stick of Joseph, the one is the stick of Judah. And so, I really feel like, it's really important on a daily basis to read from the scriptures. And so I try to read, I've read the New Testament hundreds of times. I've read the Old Testament a couple times. I've read the Book of Mormon, hundreds of times. So it's like he suggested when I was on a mission that we read at least 30 minutes a day in the scriptures. So I've tried to make that a lifelong practice, and that, I'll miss a day here and there, but, I would say 99% of the time I'm consistent with that at least 30 minutes a day of scripture study. And then along with that goes prayer. I really feel like, the scriptures tell us to pray morning, midday, and evening. So, I don't always pray 3 times a day, but I try to, and I really try to communicate with the Lord because I really feel like he's our father. He's our creator. He's the one that knows us best, and our savior paid for our sins. So, those two individuals in my life are the most important, individuals in my life. I love and I love them.
Yeah. How about as far as Tom, you've been part of teams a lot in your life. What have your been observations of leaders that were able to build an effective culture? What did they do?
I've been around a lot of good coaches and I've been around a lot of bad coaches.
Yeah, and so tell us what was what you learned from the good and also from the bad. Maybe a couple tips on each.
Yeah, I really feel like to be a good coach and a good leader, it's like you really need to inspire other people. And, you're a great example of this, Jim, and you're a great leader. I mean, you get out there in front of people, you tell great stories, you inspire them, people want to hear what you have to say. And it's like, you're respected in your community, you're respected, in areas throughout the world. It's like, I think that's what makes a good leader. It's like you have to have that respect. And it's like a lot of these coaches, it's just so political. And I get really frustrated with the sports system because I feel like it just, the people that have money get ahead because they get their kids on these travel teams that cost a lot of money that a lot of people just can't afford. So it's like these,
Yeah.
and then the high school coaches choose only from the travel teams. It's like, but I think a lot of these other kids, they get passed up. They're better athletes and they have more potential, but they get passed up because their parents don't have a lot of money. And so I get so frustrated with our system. When you and I grew up, it wasn't like that. We all played all the sports.
Right.
But today, I train with some of these high school kids, and they say that, I was training with these Taekwondo people, and they said that, they were in gymnastics, and some of these parents were feeding their kids steroids, when
Oh,
they're
geez.
when
Oh,
they're when they're teenagers. I'm just like, in baseball, they have some of the fathers, have the kids go through, Tommy John surgery because they think their arms are going to be stronger, after the surgery. And it's just, these people and these coaches and these parents are just doing crazy stuff. It's like,
yeah.
I think, it's like I coached it when I was 19 through 21. I coached the number one swim team in America for recreational swimming. It's a 4-month program in California. And we had some of the best swimmers in the nation on our team. We had 300 kids, but it's like a lot of the kids never went on to swim in college. And I had one kid that went to the Olympic trials, but it's like, I felt like there was so much pressure on these kids to perform at such a young age. And there was so much focus that when they got older, they were burned out. And it's
Mhm.
like, I see this happen all the time. And it's like, I really feel like the best thing to do for younger kids is to expose them to a variety of sport when they're young.
Mhm.
And then when they start to get to high school, then they know, okay, I've tried all these sports. This is my best sport. In Europe, they do things a lot different. They test, the white twitch and the red twitch muscle fiber. They test their bones to see how tall they're going to be. They test their VO2 max to know if they, are good for distance. And it's like they tell people, okay, now, because of your physical attributes, these are the sports that you're going to be good at. So make a choice, on these few sports. But here in America, we're just kind of left to ourselves. We don't do all this testing. And
Mhm.
as a result, a lot of the kids, they don't figure out until it's too late what they're really good at. And so
Right.
I'm in favor of really exposing kids to a lot of different things when they're young. And then when they start to get to high school, then they can, focus. But it's like the problem with a lot of these coaches, they just don't understand this. And it's like they want kids to focus from the time they're 5 years old and they won't look at anybody else that does any other sports. So I just get so frustrated
Mhm.
with these coaches and parents that don't understand these basic concepts.
Right.
Yeah, it's all about doing it the right way too. You mentioned performance enhancing drugs. You mentioned a surgery that just wasn't needed. There are all these different ways that people want to shortcut the system in anything, in sports, in other areas of life too. Almost with the sense that they can't do it by their own power, by their own will, by their own effort. But you've proven that you can. I mean, you didn't use any of those drugs. You didn't take any shortcuts. I'm assuming you played a lot of sports growing up, as you mentioned, swimming and more. So, what do we need to do to re-educate our youth about how we actually can achieve our dreams without taking shortcuts?
Well, I'm also a professional golfer. I've shot 14 under in 4 straight days, in golfing, and I've I had 7 birdies in one round of golf. 7 under is my best round. I think I can get to, the 8 and the 10 under that some of these other pro golfers get to, but it's like there's no way that I would be able to golf and still have an 80 plus mile an hour fastball and still be shooting for the major leagues if I would have taken performance enhancing drugs when I was younger. It's like there's no possible way, because those things make you so strong that your joints and your tendons and ligaments just can't handle it. And so, I've been around a lot of professional athletes, and it's like I go to some of these conferences and things, and it's like, a lot of the team doctors, and I don't think they do this so much in the major leagues, because they understand the consequences of all these things, but these cortisone shots and all the things that they do to keep players on the field. And I know a lot of baseball players are popping, anti-inflammatories and ibuprofen constantly. And it's like, it's just craziness in my mind. It's like when you have an injury, your body's telling you back off. It's not telling you to take ibuprofen and keep playing. It's like, another thing for the coaches, and it's like when I'm training in the gym and it's like I have an injury, I feel like, okay, this is an opportunity for me. This isn't something that's holding me back. This is something that's going to bless my life. So it's like it gives me opportunity to focus on other areas. So it's like if my arm is messed up, then I have more chance to focus on my core and my legs and my stability and my balance and all these other things that really I don't need my arm to train for. So it's like, I really feel I look at injury and setback as opportunity versus, something that's going to get in my way of achieving my goals and dreams in life.
Tom, I'm going to delve into an area that I've been hearing more and more, and I do practice some myself, but it was not something I heard much about growing up, and that is different types of breathing exercises. What's your thoughts on that? Do you have any advice on, different types of breathing exercises?
Well, there's a guy named Dr. Otto Warburg that won a Nobel Prize in 1936. He was nominated for another one in 1942 for his research on cancer, and basically found that cancer cannot grow in an oxygen-rich environment.
Oh, really?
So what creates an oxygen-rich environment in our bodies? Obviously, exercise and deep breathing does, drinking alkaline water, drinking or eating alkaline food, reducing stress, all these things create an alkaline or an oxygen rich environment in our bodies. And it's like, I really believe that, if people aren't doing exercise, where they're, running hills or running sprints or, doing something where they're really, you're riding a bike up a hill or walking up a hill, if they're not doing those things, then they should be doing some type of deep breathing exercises, at home, where they just do maybe 3 sets of 10 of deep breaths, where you really get the oxygen, more oxygen in your body. And I really feel like that's huge as far as healing and preventing disease goes.
Hmm. Wow, that's a powerful statement right there. So again, that research talking about the importance of oxygen in cancer prevention too, which there are so much research about that. But we focus a lot on treatment in our world and less on preventative care. Now we could go a whole bunch of different ways with this, but you mentioned it a little bit earlier too, with exercise and with baseball players taking all the pills and all that kind of thing. What are some of the best ways as far as avoiding illness, avoiding, you already mentioned cancer. What are some of the best things that we can incorporate into our healthy lifestyle that we probably aren't thinking about right now?
I would say, as far as what we can do to, prevent disease, our focus in America really is on curative medicine. Once there's a problem, let's fix it with drugs and surgery versus let's prevent the problem from happening. And we spend more than double on our healthcare than any country in the world, but we don't even rank in the top, healthiest, we're I think 48th in the world. You're hearing more about this from RFK Jr., but it's like, we're not doing good. It's like if we're spending more than double than any country on the world, we should be number one in the health of our citizens, but
Yeah.
it's like we're not. And so you look at countries like Japan. I know Japan used to be number one in the world year after year. Now I think actually Italy has bumped up to number one. But you look at the money that they spend on medicine, and it's about 90%. We spend 90% on curative medicine, 10% on prevention. Theirs is almost the complete opposite. They spend about 90% on prevention and 10% on curative medicine. So it's like if we really want to, change things around here in America, we really have to get back to a preventative approach versus, once there's a problem, let's fix it with any means available. I really am not a believer in, it's like and I don't want to bash on modern medicine because I think it's wonderful. I think, if we get in a car accident or if we break a bone, there's no better place to be than America. But if we want to learn how to be healthy, there's so many other countries that are doing so much better than we are.
That's a good point. Well, Tom, as we wrap up, I have one last question for you, and we appreciate your insights today. My question is, in going through life, people make a lot of transitions, and you have as well. So I'm just curious, even like in your sports world, where you were a pretty darn good swimmer, but you're also a very good baseball player. Then you became an elite golfer. Tell us a little bit to help people in making different transitions. Like, do you have any advice for them?
I think, again, it's good to do, different things. It's like, a lot of times people just mentally, physically get burned out. And a lot of times they just need a break.
Mhm.
It's like people say, how can you still, I go to church and I tell people, that ask me at church, how's your knuckleball coming? And I'm like, my arm feels great. It's like, and they're like, they're like in their 30s and 40s and they're already having physical problems. But it's like they're saying, how are you able to do that? And I said, well, I took 5 years off. I didn't throw at all. It's like, and then when I come back, my arm feels great. It's like I don't have any pain anywhere. And it's like I just feel like, we need variety, we need breaks, we need, new challenges, we need, it's like, you know, life is exciting, life is fun. It's like if you're bored with what you're doing, do something else, don't keep just, I remember one of my professors in college, I saw him running and it's like he would run like 5 miles a day and he'd been doing it since he was like in his 20s and he was in his like 60s and he was in pain constantly. And I'm just like, why beat yourself up like that? It's like get on a bike. A bike is not going to beat your body up, but every time you pound on the ground, hard
Mhm.
cement, it's like, was it 2 or 3 times your body weight, every time you land with your foot. So it's like that's eventually gonna, the people that are the marathon runners when they're 90, I can almost guarantee they haven't been running their whole life. They probably started when they were 70, so it's like I just think people need variety. They need breaks. They need mental, physical, breaks from what they're doing in every aspect of life. If you're too burned out in your job and what you're doing, it's like make some changes.
Mhm.
And it's like, sometimes people are locked in and they can't make the changes that they want to make, but it's like, there's always something out there that you can do to make life more interesting and more fun, and do it the right way. Don't do it by taking drugs and looking at pornography and doing all these things that our world tells us to do. Do things the Lord's way, and I really feel like that's the best way.
Right on. We couldn't agree more with you, Tom. I know Coach and I are both men of faith as well. So we appreciate where you're coming from, mind, body, spirit. Tell us a little bit here in our last few moments about some of the books that you've written, including, of course, Wave for Healthy Living, and then your TV show too. If we want to check out more and learn more from you, where can we go?
Okay, this is my book. It's called The Way for Healthy Living. Like I said, we talk about the most important seven most important principles of fitness, nutrition, a healthy mind, healthy spirit. If people wanted to get the book, they can go to Amazon, or they can go to our website, which is wave the number four and then life.com. This is my children's book called Question Everything. I really feel like, kids these days, we need to get them to question things. And it's like not in an obnoxious or disrespectful way, but the idea behind the book is we pose a question. Tommy's this 10-year-old boy, and 10-year-old boys can ask pretty much anything, right? And so Tommy asks these questions that are thought-provoking, profound, and sometimes very funny, and it leaves possible answers up for child and parent to discuss. And they say the average father talks to their kids 11 an average of 7 minutes per day, and the average mother talks to their child 11 minutes per day. I really feel like we need to increase that, and not let our teachers and other people, raise our children. We need to raise our children. So that's the idea behind the children's book, is it poses a question and then it leaves possible answers up to the parent and the child to discuss. And so, the TV show, we ran regionally in 5 states for a little over a year. We did like 30 episodes, and then we got picked up nationally on national TV, and we ran in 50 million households. But I had a bad business partner that I teamed up with, and he stabbed me in the back. We had $2 million from advertisers, so he saw that money, and so I had to pull out. But we still have networks like Ion Network that runs in 110 million households, that said, and there's, 100 million households, and there's only 110 million total. They said they'll run our show next week if we have a show to give them. So, I'm looking for business partners, but it's like I don't want to bring in somebody like I've had before. I've got to work with good people, because one bad person can mess everything up.
That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Tom, definitely look up Tom Wright's website, Wave for Healthy Living. That's down in the show notes,
It's
as well as
Wave for Life.
Wave for Life. I apologize. I was
And
jumping ahead to the book. Wave
it's
for Life. And then
it's
Wave
it's
for Healthy Living, the book. The link is down in the show notes. It's principles of exercise, nutrition, a healthy mind, and a healthy spirit. So you can check both of those links out down there in the show notes, and get more of Tom, because you've passed on some very valuable information, Tom, and we certainly appreciate your time here.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. You guys are doing a wonderful thing. So I sincerely appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, Tom. We look forward to staying in touch and appreciate your time and insights today.
All right. Thanks, Jim.